From the moment Bruce Wayne witnessed the murder of his parents, the course of his life was irreversibly altered. That single moment of violence, that brief flash of terror in the darkened alley, set the stage for everything that followed. It wasn't just the physical loss of his parents, it was the psychological trauma that followed. The world that Bruce once knew, a world of safety and comfort, was shattered, leaving him with a deep sense of abandonment and a need for vengeance. Gotham, once a city of promise and opportunity, became a constant reminder of his inability to protect those he loved, a reflection of his own weakness. At the heart of Bruce's superhuman resilience is the trauma he experienced that fateful night. Psychologists would argue that his response to this event, this formative tragedy, was more than just a reaction to pain. For Bruce, it was the defining moment that ignited a fire within him, a desire to never be vulnerable again, to never feel powerless again. But the question remains, how much of his incredible strength and endurance stems from that one night, and how much of it is a response to the ongoing battle within him? Unlike many who experience a traumatic event and are crushed by it, Bruce took that trauma and molded it into a force of will. He did not wallow in his grief, but rather channeled it, transforming his pain into purpose. This is where his resilience begins, not in the simple notion of overcoming grief, but in the ability to bend it to his will. In the early years following the tragedy, Bruce didn't just bury his pain, he fed it, stoking it like a fire that would drive him forward. He began the journey to becoming Batman with the sole purpose of ensuring that what happened to him would never happen to another innocent person. This mission became a lifeline, something that anchored him to the world even as it tore him apart internally. In the years of training, when Bruce sought to master himself, to build strength, he wasn't simply preparing for the physical challenges that lay ahead. He was preparing for a psychological war against the darkness that lived inside him. His resilience wasn't just a matter of enduring physical pain or facing external danger. Bruce had to face the darkest part of himself, the part of him that still grieved, the part of him that wanted to destroy the world that took his parents away from him. It is this internal battle, the fight for control over his emotions, that makes Bruce's resilience truly superhuman. Where others would have faltered, Bruce pushed through. The loss of his parents was the catalyst for his determination, but it also fueled a deep-seated anger and guilt, emotions that he had to learn to control, lest they consume him. This is why Batman doesn't just fight criminals. He fights the darkness within. The resilience that Bruce Wayne developed wasn't just about physical endurance or pain tolerance. It was about his mental strength, his ability to compartmentalize his emotions and push through, no matter how much they threaten to pull him under. Every time Bruce faces a new threat, whether it's an ordinary criminal or an arch nemesis like the Joker, it's not just a battle of wits or strength. It's a psychological war. Bruce's ability to face his enemies with such precision and dedication comes from his ability to overcome the fear and grief that have shaped him. When Batman confronts his foes, it's not just his combat training that gives him the edge. It's his mind, his ability to remain calm and focused in the face of fear. His superhuman resilience comes from his ability to compartmentalize his emotions, to focus on the task at hand, despite the overwhelming darkness he carries within. The key to Bruce's superhuman resilience is his refusal to be consumed by his trauma. Many would argue that trauma is inherently destructive, that it breaks people down, shatters their will to live, and leaves them with scars that never fade. But Bruce's trauma did not break him. It became the fuel for his journey. What others would see as weakness, Bruce saw as his greatest strength, the ability to endure when everything around him tells him to give up. His trauma doesn't just push him forward, it defines his purpose. In this sense, Bruce's resilience goes beyond the typical idea of surviving trauma. He has not only survived, he has mastered it. The very thing that should have crushed him, the murder of his parents, became the foundation for his entire existence. He doesn't just endure pain, he uses it. His superhuman resilience is not just about overcoming the past. It's about transforming it into something that drives him to be greater than human. Batman is not a figure who runs from his trauma. He confronts it every day. Each time he faces the chaos of Gotham, he is not only confronting external threats, but the personal demons that haunt him. His strength comes from his ability to confront his past and never let it break him. As Bruce's emotional resilience develops, so too does his physical resilience. His training to become Batman is not merely about combat techniques, but about conditioning himself to withstand not just physical harm, but mental strain. Every fight, every battle of wits, every moment of uncertainty strengthens his resolve. Batman doesn't just fight to protect Gotham. He fights to prove to himself that he can endure, that he is not his trauma, but the man who transcended it. This internal battle is what makes Bruce Wayne's resilience truly superhuman. It's not about simply surviving the trauma of his childhood. It's about using that trauma to forge himself into something more than human. To truly understand Bruce Wayne's resilience, one must look at the ways in which he has redefined what it means to be human. In many ways, Bruce Wayne's superhuman qualities stem from his refusal to accept the limits of humanity. He is a man who has trained his body and mind to become incredible, but his true strength comes from the emotional mastery that enables him to push through pain, fear, and doubt with remarkable focus. He is able to endure, not because he is inhuman, but because he refuses to let his humanity consume him. He is defined not by the trauma that shaped him, but by his unwavering will to continue forward, even when the world around him crumbles. Bruce Wayne's resilience, when viewed through the lens of his trauma, is more than just a personal coping mechanism. It becomes the very foundation of his identity. The trauma he experienced as a child, the violent, unjust murder of his parents, could have easily destroyed him. For most, such a devastating loss would leave them broken, trapped in a cycle of grief and despair, unable to escape the weight of their pain. But for Bruce, the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne did not mark the end of his story. Rather, it ignited something within him, a drive that would push him to transcend the limitations of his own humanity and become something greater. This defining moment would not only shape the path Bruce took, but it would forge a mental and emotional resilience that allowed him to defy the odds, to endure beyond the realm of what most would consider human. The true measure of Bruce Wayne's resilience lies in his response to trauma. Unlike those who might collapse under the weight of personal grief, Bruce used his trauma as a catalyst. He transformed it into a force of will, a motive that would shape his life's work and purpose. From that moment of anguish in the alley, where a small child's entire world was destroyed in an instant, Bruce was forced to face the raw, emotional aftermath of an unbearable loss. But rather than succumb to that grief, he chose a path of mastery. He took control of the pain, the fear, and the anger that threatened to overwhelm him, recognizing that to defeat Gotham's darkness, he would first have to conquer the darkness within. The very loss that should have destroyed him became his empowerment, shaping him into a figure whose strength goes far beyond the physical. Batman, in his essence, is a reflection of Bruce Wayne's ability to withstand, to endure the unimaginable without allowing it to crush his spirit. It is important to note that Bruce's superhuman resilience does not simply stem from grit or stubbornness. It is a carefully cultivated state of mental fortitude, honed over years of physical training and psychological discipline. Bruce's time away from Gotham, during which he sought the guidance of masters from various corners of the world, was not just about developing physical strength or learning combat techniques. It was about forging a mind capable of enduring not just the physical pain of battle, but also the mental anguish that comes with living a life defined by loss and vengeance. His time spent training in the mystical arts, psychology, and combat wasn't just for the purpose of defeating his enemies. It was to give him the mental clarity to keep going when everything else threatened to break him. Bruce had to master himself, learning to control his emotions and his instincts, because he knew that in the darkest moments, he alone would have to bear the weight of his trauma. This internal struggle, the constant balancing of Bruce's anger, his grief, and his desire for vengeance, is a key part of what makes him more resilient than any other hero in the DC universe. While other superheroes may be driven by honor, duty, or responsibility, Bruce's resolve is rooted in the deepest parts of his soul. Every time he steps into the role of Batman, he does so consciously, aware of the emotional baggage he carries with him. He chooses to confront the same trauma every single time, forcing himself to push past it, to stay focused, and to remain committed to his cause. Batman is not merely a man fighting for justice. He is a man continuously battling with the ghosts of his past, a man determined to prove to himself that he is stronger than the darkness that defined him. Yet, this process is not easy, and it is this constant struggle against his inner demons that makes Bruce Wayne's resilience seem almost superhuman. How many times has Batman faced overwhelming odds, fought through physical exhaustion, and yet found the strength to keep going, often at the cost of his own well-being? He endures self-inflicted pain as part of his training, pushing his body to the brink of collapse, just to prove that nothing, not even physical pain, will break him. But the true nature of his resilience lies not in the physical, but in the emotional and psychological fortitude required to carry on despite everything. Bruce Wayne knows that each time he dons the cape and cowl, he must confront the boy he once was, the child who was forced to watch his parents die. This internal battle is not one he wins by defeating enemies, but by choosing to carry the weight of his past, refusing to let it consume him. But there is also something incredibly human about Bruce's resilience. The fact that Batman, a man who has faced every conceivable pain, both physical and emotional, chooses to continue despite his trauma, speaks to the strength of human spirit itself. In a world filled with gods and superpowered beings, Bruce is remarkably ordinary. He has no superhuman abilities, no alien physiology, and no mystical artifacts that give him his power. He is just a man. Yet it is precisely this humanity that gives him the ability to endure. It is his unwillingness to quit, to allow his trauma to define him, that makes him extraordinary. The resilience Bruce Wayne exhibits is rooted not in some innate gift or superpower, but in his incredible will to survive, to keep fighting for a city that never seems to reward him. In many ways, Bruce's resilience is a double-edged sword. His unyielding determination to overcome is what has allowed him to become the Dark Knight, but it also places him in constant conflict with his own humanity. The more resilient he becomes, the more isolated he grows. This inner conflict fuels much of Bruce's journey, forcing him to constantly ask, at what cost does his strength come? Every victory he achieves, every criminal he defeats, is a reminder of his sacrifice, that his humanity is constantly at risk of being consumed by his need to protect Gotham. Batman's resilience, then, is both his greatest strength and his greatest vulnerability. It makes him an unbeatable force, yet it also isolates him from the very world he is trying to save. He is caught in a paradox. His strength comes from his unflinching commitment to Gotham, yet it is this very commitment that separates him from the city's human side. Bruce Wayne's superhuman resilience is not only about persevering in the face of physical pain, but also about enduring psychological torment and emotional suffering that would crush most individuals. From the moment his parents died, he was faced with an immense challenge: how to carry the weight of grief and anger without allowing those feelings to consume him. The very core of Bruce's identity revolves around this question: how does one endure? How does one maintain their sanity, their sense of self, and their purpose, when the world around them has broken them down to the point where all that remains is raw emotion and a desperate need for revenge? Bruce's resilience, in a sense, becomes a shield against the darkness that seeks to engulf him. Every moment of pain, every instance of grief, and every instance of failure is not just a test of his physical limits, but a psychological and spiritual test. There are moments where Bruce could have easily abandoned his mission, moments where the ghosts of his past could have been so overwhelming that he might have succumbed to the chaos inside him. Yet, time and time again, Bruce Wayne chooses to continue. It is not out of sheer willpower, but out of a deeper understanding. An understanding that Gotham needs him, even if he himself does not believe he is worthy of redemption. In this sense, Bruce's resilience is defined by his sacrifice, his willingness to give up everything for the greater good of Gotham. Even at the cost of his own happiness, while his childhood trauma shaped him, it also forged a drive to never stop, to never let his emotions control him. Every death, every failure, every loss is not a step backward for Bruce. It is merely another layer of fortification that makes his resilience stronger. This process, of course, is not without its costs. As Batman, Bruce isolates himself from those who love him, Alfred, Gordon, and even the people of Gotham. His mission becomes his only purpose, and in doing so, he loses pieces of himself along the way. Yet, this detachment is not simply a defense mechanism. It is Bruce's way of coping with the sacrifices he has made. His resilience is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it allows him to survive in a world filled with chaos and insanity. On the other hand, it keeps him apart from the very people he seeks to protect. Bruce's superhuman resilience enables him to continue fighting despite his emotional and physical exhaustion, but it also forces him to live a life of solitude, never fully able to connect with others in a meaningful way. Bruce's trauma, particularly the loss of his parents, becomes the fuel for his resolve. But the deeper psychological impact of this loss is the origin of his internal conflict. Bruce is not just driven by a need to right the wrongs of his parents' death. He is driven by a desire to make sense of the senseless, to find meaning in a world that seems devoid of it. As Batman, Bruce's entire life is defined by this internal struggle. Every villain he faces, from the Joker to Ra's al Ghul, is a mirror of his own darkness. They reflect the dark sides of his own personality, the chaos, the rage, the despair that he constantly fights to keep under control. As Bruce's training and self-discipline progress, his ability to endure becomes more superhuman. It isn't just his physical prowess or the perfection of his combat skills that sets him apart from other heroes. It's his ability to remain stoic in the face of devastating loss and to channel his emotions into something productive. Batman is always in control, but that control is the product of years of mental and emotional battle. He has become a master not just of his body, but of his mind, training himself to never be overwhelmed by his past, no matter how much it threatens to pull him back into the abyss. Bruce's resilience, however, does not mean he is immune to self-doubt. In fact, his internal struggle is often what makes him more human. There are moments where Bruce questions whether his mission is worth the personal cost. He feels the weight of his choices, the isolation, the emotional pain, the sacrifices he makes every day. But what sets him apart is not just his ability to endure, it's his willingness to keep going, to keep fighting, even when the road ahead seems impossible. His self-doubt doesn't break him. It makes him more relatable and more compelling. Bruce's humanity shines through, and in his struggles we see that his resilience is not about being perfect. It's about continuing the fight, even when it seems like there's no way to win. In Bruce Wayne, we find the epitome of the human spirit's resilience. His superhuman endurance is not the product of some mystical gift or alien origin, but of his unwavering willpower, his refusal to surrender to the pain and loss that would have crushed a lesser person. It is this resilience that allows him to continue to fight for Gotham despite the overwhelming darkness he faces every day. His superhuman resilience is not the absence of weakness, it is the ability to carry on in spite of it, to use his own humanity as the source of his power. Bruce Wayne's superhuman resilience continues to evolve as the very fabric of his being is tested time and time again. As Batman, he has faced countless physical and emotional challenges, each one pushing him further into a realm of endurance that seems to defy the natural limits of human strength. Yet, in every instance of pain, grief, and sacrifice, he becomes more than just a man in a mask. He becomes a living testament to the idea that true strength does not come from the absence of weakness, but from the ability to endure despite it. What truly sets Bruce apart is not just the trauma he faced, but how he used that trauma to build an emotional armor that has allowed him to become Gotham's greatest protector. From the outset, Bruce's life journey has been a battle against the weight of the past, but it is in his response to trauma that his true superhuman resilience emerges. He didn't choose to be defined by his tragedy. Instead, he chose to grow from it, to use his pain as a force of will. While many would be consumed by the darkness of such a loss, Bruce harnessed it, transforming the fear and rage that threatened to destroy him into a powerful drive to make a difference. This drive has been the foundation of his resilience, the core of his identity. It is not simply his desire to avenge his parents that fuels his quest. It is the unrelenting determination to prevent others from feeling his pain, a desire to protect Gotham from the same loss that haunted him. However, Bruce's trauma, while undeniably a source of strength, also weighs heavily on him. The psychological scars he carries are not easily erased, and his resilience is often put to the test in moments where the emotional toll becomes too great to ignore. His self-imposed isolation as Batman, the long nights spent hunting criminals in the shadows, is a direct result of his inability to connect with others. The death of his parents created a rift between Bruce and the rest of the world, leaving him alone in a sea of pain and guilt. And yet, it is through this very isolation that Bruce has cultivated a mental toughness that allows him to survive, even when everything around him is crumbling. This internal battle, this constant struggle against his own demons, is what makes Bruce's resilience so exceptional. He has spent a lifetime building walls, not just around his heart, but around his emotions and weaknesses. These walls allow him to function as Gotham's protector, but they also come at a cost. The more Bruce buries his pain, the more he risks losing touch with his humanity. For a brief moment, It seems that he is becoming more like the very villains he fights, detached, cold, and consumed by the darkness within. The Joker often reminds Bruce of this, constantly challenging his resolve, pushing him to the brink of breaking. The Joker knows that the key to defeating Batman is not through physical combat, but through attacking his spirit, forcing him to question the purpose behind his resilience. But it is in the face of such psychological warfare that Bruce's true strength shines. Each time he is tested by the Joker, or even by his own internal doubts, he overcomes. He doesn't fight back with anger or vengeance, but with the quiet strength that comes from accepting his past, embracing his pain, and transforming it into something greater. His resilience is not the absence of emotion, but rather his ability to endure without losing himself to the pain. Batman's greatest weapon is not his physical prowess, but his mental fortitude, his ability to stay focused, to remain calm, and to move forward even when the weight of the world threatens to crush him. The more Bruce interacts with the people of Gotham, the more he begins to realize that his resilience is not something he can sustain on his own. It was once a personal mission, driven by a singular goal to rid the city of crime and avenge his parents. But as he interacts with Alfred, Jim Gordon, Rachel, and even his rogues gallery, Bruce begins to understand that true strength comes from connection. The very walls he built to protect himself, his self-imposed isolation, are the same walls that keep him from experiencing the human connections that could heal him. Gotham's true strength lies not in the Bat, but in the people who choose to fight for what is right, and Bruce realizes that he must embrace that if Gotham is ever to be saved. The people of Gotham, for all their flaws, for all the corruption and chaos that pervades the city, offer something Batman can never give Gotham on his own: hope. And it is through his relationship with them that Bruce begins to learn that resilience is not just about surviving alone, but about building strength together. Alfred, who has been Bruce's constant companion throughout his journey, is a reminder that family, whether blood or chosen, provides the foundation for true strength. Gordon, who has always stood by Batman's side despite their differences, reminds Bruce that justice is not a solitary path but a shared pursuit. Even Rachel, despite their romantic tension, teaches Bruce that emotional connections are not a weakness but a source of healing. As Bruce continues his mission, it becomes clear that his resilience is not a static trait, but a dynamic force. One that is continually evolving as he learns more about himself and the world around him. Gotham's darkest moments, from the death of his parents to the chaos wrought by his enemies, only serve to strengthen his resolve. Bruce Wayne is not just a man who endured trauma. He is a man who transformed it into a catalyst for action, a driving force that compels him to keep fighting. It is this inner strength, born from the deepest wells of grief and loss, that makes Bruce Wayne the Batman, and that allows him to endure where others would crumble. As Bruce Wayne continues to face the daily burdens of Gotham, his journey through psychological endurance becomes not only a personal quest, but a public one. His resilience, which once seemed like an individual battle against trauma, now ripples outward, affecting the entire city. Gotham is a place marked by corruption, violence, and despair, and yet Bruce's ability to withstand pain and refuse to give up has in many ways transformed him into Gotham's shield. His emotional fortitude becomes an anchor for a city that often teeters on the brink of destruction. At the heart of Bruce's transformation is his understanding that resilience isn't just about surviving or persevering in isolation. It is about connection, partnership, and community. This realization, however, doesn't come easily to Bruce, who, for much of his life, saw himself as a lone crusader. The depths of his trauma, the pain of losing his parents, and the haunting reminder that Gotham itself is a city of perpetual suffering make it difficult for Bruce to see that his superhuman resilience lies not in shutting the world out, but in finding strength in others. The more Bruce fights in Gotham's streets, the more he sees that his ability to heal and move forward depends not only on his personal strength, but also on how he allows others to help him. This shift in mindset marks a profound change for Bruce, who has long carried the weight of Gotham's suffering on his own shoulders. The lesson that emerges is powerful. Resilience isn't a solo effort. The people of Gotham who have suffered and struggled hold the same strength as Bruce in their own right. What Bruce began as a personal crusade for vengeance has now grown into a shared effort, a collective fight for a city's soul. Jar Jar. Bruce's growing understanding of this concept can be seen in his relationship with Alfred. The butler and father figure to Bruce has always been a grounding force, but over time, their dynamic shifts from mentor and pupil to partners in crime. Alfred is no longer merely the one who patches up Bruce's wounds or gives sage advice. He is Bruce's moral compass, his confidant, and his connection to humanity. When Bruce falters, when his resilience is tested to the limit, it is Alfred's wisdom and love that remind him of his humanity. The lessons Alfred imparts about love, compassion, and family become integral to Bruce's understanding that his true strength lies not in his isolation, but in his ability to embrace his human connections. This realization is further tested as Bruce's relationship with Jim Gordon deepens. Gordon, who has been a steadfast ally of Batman, represents the law and order that Bruce fights to protect. The relationship between them is complicated. At times, Gordon's trust in Batman falters, and Batman's trust in the system that Gordon upholds is also questioned. But through the constant trials of Gotham's crime wave, both men come to understand that their resilience is linked by a shared sense of duty. Gordon, like Bruce, is burdened by the suffering of Gotham's citizens and the weight of personal loss. But his strength lies in his commitment to serve the people, even when it's impossible to win. Through Gordon, Bruce learns a new aspect of resilience: sacrifice for the greater good. While Batman may sacrifice his own well-being for Gotham, Gordon sacrifices his sense of personal safety, his relationship with his family, and his own sanity in order to maintain law and order. Their dynamic forces Bruce to reconsider his own moral compass. It becomes clear that Batman's resilience isn't just about overcoming physical pain or fighting criminals. It's about understanding the human toll that this lifestyle takes on others. Bruce begins to see the cost of his mission, not just on himself, but on those who are caught in the wake of his fight for justice. But it's not only Gordon and Alfred who challenge Bruce's view of resilience. The complex nature of Batman's villains also plays a significant role in shaping his own strength. Each foe Bruce faces represents a different facet of his own inner turmoil. The Joker, for instance, is not merely a villain in the traditional sense. He is a reflection of Bruce's own madness, his rage, and his dark impulses. Every time Batman confronts the Joker, he faces not just the danger of the moment, but the deeper psychological warfare that Joker brings to the table. The Joker, who seeks to destroy Gotham by breaking its spirit, represents the chaos that Bruce is constantly fighting against, not just externally, but internally. But through this chaotic dance with his nemesis, Bruce is forced to question the very nature of his mission and his resilience. Is his resilience built on love for Gotham, or is it built on a desire for revenge against the forces that took his parents? Every time he faces the Joker, Bruce comes closer to understanding that true resilience doesn't lie in beating chaos with chaos, but in embracing the human aspects of his mission, the compassion that fuels his drive, and the empathy he feels for the people he protects. In fact, every villain that Bruce faces, from Ra's al Ghul to Two-Face to Bane, forces him to confront a part of himself. Whether it's his need for control, his fear of failure, or his struggle with his own humanity. His superhuman resilience comes not just from his physical ability to endure, but from his ability to face the truth about himself, to accept his flaws and embrace his humanity. Bruce's greatest challenge is not defeating Gotham's criminals, but accepting that he too is vulnerable, and that his humanity, his emotions, and connections to others are his greatest strengths. Bruce's resilience, therefore, is not a static trait. It is an evolving journey, one that shapes not only the way he approaches Gotham's criminals, but also the way he sees himself. His trauma, far from being something that makes him weak, becomes the source of his strength, but only when he learns to accept it, not as a defining feature, but as a tool that drives him forward. Through his interactions with others, with Alfred, Gordon, and even his villains, Bruce begins to understand that resilience doesn't just come from enduring pain, it comes from understanding it, learning from it, and finding the strength to keep going despite it. As Bruce Wayne continues his journey, his superhuman resilience is not only shaped by his internal struggles, but also by the world around him. Gotham itself becomes a crucible, constantly testing his strength and mental fortitude. Every corner of the city holds a new challenge, and each of these challenges forces Bruce to confront his own weaknesses and redefine his limits. The city, like Bruce, is broken, its spirit fractured by crime, corruption, and violence. Yet, in the face of such adversity, Gotham's resilience mirrors Bruce's own, Batman's mission. As much as it is about protecting the innocent, becomes about restoring hope, not just to Gotham but to himself. In the early years of his crusade, Bruce saw Gotham as a reflection of his own suffering. The city's corruption and chaos paralleled the darkness that had consumed him since that fateful night in Crime Alley. Gotham was a place where justice seemed like a distant dream, and the criminal element reigned with impunity. Bruce Wayne's mission was to bring order to this chaos, to force the criminals of Gotham to pay for their crimes, and restore some semblance of peace to the city. But as time wore on, Bruce realized that the path of vengeance he had chosen was more about healing his own wounds than saving Gotham. Each battle he fought, each victory he won, became a moment of catharsis, a way to release the pain and rage that had defined his existence. But this path was not without its costs. Bruce's obsession with revenge and punishment had always led him to isolate himself from the very people he swore to protect. His vigilante crusade became an all-consuming journey, leaving little room for meaningful connections or emotional release. His trauma, though a source of strength, had also become a prison, one that kept him locked in a cycle of endless battles and self-sacrifice. Gotham, a city that had shaped his mission, had also shaped his inner turmoil. The darkness that Bruce fought against in Gotham reflected the darkness that he struggled with inside himself. But it was only when Bruce began to see that his resilience wasn't about just fighting crime that he started to understand the true nature of his strength. Bruce's relationship with Alfred plays a significant role in this realization. Alfred Pennyworth, Bruce's loyal butler and father figure, has always been a voice of wisdom and reason in Bruce's life. However, Alfred's role in Bruce's journey goes beyond that of a mere caretaker. Over the years, Alfred has witnessed the emotional toll that being Batman has taken on Bruce, and he is the one who constantly reminds Bruce that true healing can only come when Bruce is willing to confront his trauma, not just by fighting it, but by understanding it and learning to live with it. Alfred's quiet guidance challenges Bruce's belief that resilience is only about endurance. Through his wisdom, Alfred teaches Bruce that resilience is also about accepting vulnerability, about understanding that even the strongest among us need help, that strength doesn't always come from self-reliance, but from connection with others. This shift in Bruce's understanding of his resilience becomes increasingly apparent as he begins to open up to others in ways he never has before. Jim Gordon, Gotham's police commissioner, becomes another critical figure in Bruce's emotional evolution. Though their relationship is often marked by tension due to the complicated nature of Batman's tactics and Gotham's political landscape, Gordon represents the lawful counterbalance to Batman's often violent methods. As the two work together more closely, Bruce begins to realize that his mission can't be about acting alone in the shadows. True resilience isn't about defeating Gotham's enemies on his own. It's about collaborating with those who share his goal and building a system of justice that doesn't rely solely on one man's strength. This evolution in Bruce's relationships, particularly with Gordon and Alfred, challenges his earlier assumptions about what it means to be strong. While Batman has always been a figure who stands apart from the rest of Gotham, it becomes clear that Gotham's healing can't come from a lone crusader. It must be a shared effort, one that requires the strength of its people and the resilience of its leaders working together. For Bruce, this means stepping back from the obsessive, isolated mentality that has defined much of his journey and allowing others to share the burden. At the same time, Bruce's resilience continues to be tested in the form of his villains, particularly those who represent the dark aspects of his own psyche. The Joker, for example, is not simply a criminal mastermind. He is a mirror of Bruce's worst fears. The Joker's nihilistic view of the world, his belief that chaos is the only true force in the universe, directly challenges Bruce's resilience. For Bruce, the Joker represents the ultimate test. Will he fall into despair and become like the man he's fighting against? Or will he find the strength to defy the Joker's nihilism and prove that hope can withstand even the most devastating forces? Joker's madness, while pushing Bruce to his limits, also serves as a reminder that Bruce's true strength lies not in his physical superiority or mental toughness, but in his ability to maintain hope in a world that often seems hopeless. The internal struggle that Bruce faces with the Joker, with his own fear of becoming like him, underscores the ultimate test of Bruce's superhuman resilience. Batman must confront the reality that his own darkness is always within reach. Each battle, each encounter with Gotham's most dangerous criminals, brings him closer to the abyss. But through it all, Bruce continues to choose the path of hope, understanding that resilience is not just about enduring the trials, but about choosing to fight for the light even when the darkness is overwhelming. In this way, Bruce's superhuman resilience is defined not just by his ability to persevere in the face of adversity, but by his ability to inspire others to join him in the fight for Gotham's soul. His legacy as Batman is not just about the fear he instills in Gotham's criminals, but about the hope he fosters among its citizens. As the city begins to heal, Bruce learns that his resilience doesn't just protect him from the world, it empowers those around him, creating a network of heroes, each resilient in their own right, who rise above the chaos to fight for the future of Gotham. As Bruce Wayne continues his journey, his superhuman resilience is not only shaped by his internal struggles, but also by the world around him. Gotham itself becomes a crucible, constantly testing his strength and mental fortitude. Every corner of the city holds a new challenge, and each of these challenges forces Bruce to confront his own weaknesses and redefine his limits. The city, like Bruce, is broken, its spirit fractured by crime, corruption, and violence. Yet, in the face of such adversity, Gotham's resilience mirrors Bruce's own. Batman's mission, as much as it is about protecting the innocent, becomes about restoring hope, not just to Gotham but to himself. In the early years of his crusade, Bruce saw Gotham as a reflection of his own suffering. The city's corruption and chaos paralleled the darkness that had consumed him since that fateful night in Crime Alley. Gotham was a place where justice seemed like a distant dream, and the criminal element reigned with impunity. Bruce Wayne's mission was to bring order to this chaos, to force the criminals of Gotham to pay for their crimes, and restore some semblance of peace to the city. But as time wore on, Bruce realized that the path of vengeance he had chosen was more about healing his own wounds than saving Gotham. Each battle he fought, each victory he won, became a moment of catharsis, a way to release the pain and rage that had defined his existence. But this path was not without its costs. Bruce's obsession with revenge and punishment had always led him to isolate himself from the very people he swore to protect. His vigilante crusade became an all-consuming journey, leaving little room for meaningful connections or emotional release. His trauma, though a source of strength, had also become a prison, one that kept him locked in a cycle of endless battles and self-sacrifice. Gotham, a city that had shaped his mission, had also shaped his inner turmoil. The darkness that Bruce fought against in Gotham reflected the darkness that he struggled with inside himself. But it was only when Bruce began to see that his resilience wasn't about just fighting crime that he started to understand the true nature of his strength. Bruce's relationship with Alfred plays a significant role in this realization. Alfred Pennyworth, Bruce's loyal butler and father figure, has always been a voice of wisdom and reason in Bruce's life. However, Alfred's role in Bruce's journey goes beyond that of a mere caretaker. Over the years, Alfred has witnessed the emotional toll that being Batman has taken on Bruce, and he is the one who constantly reminds Bruce that true healing can only come when Bruce is willing to confront his trauma, not just by fighting it, but by understanding it and learning to live with it. Alfred's quiet guidance challenges Bruce's belief that resilience is only about endurance. Through his wisdom, Alfred teaches Bruce that resilience is also about accepting vulnerability, about understanding that even the strongest among us need help, that strength doesn't always come from self-reliance, but from connection with others. This shift in Bruce's understanding of his resilience becomes increasingly apparent as he begins to open up to others in ways he never has before. Jim Gordon, Gotham's police commissioner, becomes another critical figure in Bruce's emotional evolution. Though their relationship is often marked by tension due to the complicated nature of Batman's tactics and Gotham's political landscape, Gordon represents the lawful counterbalance to Batman's often violent methods. As the two work together more closely, Bruce begins to realize that his mission can't be about acting alone in the shadows. True resilience isn't about defeating Gotham's enemies on his own. It's about collaborating with those who share his goal and building a system of justice that doesn't rely solely on one man's strength. This evolution in Bruce's relationships, particularly with Gordon and Alfred, challenges his earlier assumptions about what it means to be strong. While Batman has always been a figure who stands apart from the rest of Gotham, it becomes clear that Gotham's healing can't come from a lone crusader. It must be a shared effort, one that requires the strength of its people and the resilience of its leaders working together. For Bruce, this means stepping back from the obsessive, isolated mentality that has defined much of his journey and allowing others to share the burden. At the same time, Bruce's resilience continues to be tested in the form of his villains, particularly those who represent the dark aspects of his own psyche. The Joker, for example, is not simply a criminal mastermind. He is a mirror of Bruce's worst fears. The Joker's nihilistic view of the world, his belief that chaos is the only true force in the universe, directly challenges Bruce's resilience. For Bruce, the Joker represents the ultimate test. Will he fall into despair and become like the man he's fighting against? Or will he find the strength to defy the Joker's nihilism and prove that hope can withstand even the most devastating forces? Joker's madness, while pushing Bruce to his limits, also serves as a reminder that Bruce's true strength lies not in his physical superiority or mental toughness, but in his ability to maintain hope in a world that often seems hopeless. The internal struggle that Bruce faces with the Joker, with his own fear of becoming like him, underscores the ultimate test of Bruce's superhuman resilience. Batman must confront the reality that his own darkness is always within reach. Each battle, each encounter with Gotham's most dangerous criminals brings him closer to the abyss. But through it all, Bruce continues to choose the path of hope, understanding that resilience is not just about enduring the trials, but about choosing to fight for the light even when the darkness is overwhelming. In this way, Bruce's superhuman resilience is defined not just by his ability to persevere in the face of adversity, but by his ability to inspire others to join him in the fight for Gotham's soul. His legacy as Batman is not just about the fear he instills in Gotham's criminals, but about the hope he fosters among its citizens. As the city begins to heal, Bruce learns that his resilience doesn't just protect him from the world, it empowers those around him, creating a network of heroes, each resilient in their own right, who rise above the chaos to fight for the future of Gotham. As Gotham moves further into its recovery, the influence of Bruce Wayne's resilience continues to shape the city in profound ways. His role as a leader, not just as Batman, marks the next stage of his evolution. The city that was once defined by its chaos and suffering now begins to find its own strength, fueled by the example Bruce has set and the collective effort of Gotham's citizens. The symbol of Batman evolves, no longer solely a figure of fear or vengeance, but one of hope and empowerment. Bruce's ability to endure not just his own trauma, but the weight of the entire city's suffering, becomes the driving force behind the transformation of Gotham. Bruce's evolution as a leader is not without its challenges. The weight of his decisions weighs heavily on him. He faces the internal conflict of being a man who has spent his entire life fighting darkness, yet now he is tasked with leading Gotham toward light. The resilience that Bruce has cultivated, both in the physical and emotional sense, is constantly tested by the flaws of Gotham's past. Every step forward seems to be followed by a step backward, as old wounds surface and new enemies rise to challenge the fragile peace. Yet, through each test, Bruce's superhuman resilience becomes not just a defense mechanism, but a beacon of inspiration for those who continue to fight for Gotham's soul. One of the most significant elements in Gotham's rebirth is the rise of new heroes, those who were once ordinary citizens, but now take on the mantle of justice in their own right. Nightwing, Dick Grayson, Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, and even Selina Kyle, Catwoman, emerge not just as sidekicks to Batman, but as leaders in their own right. The next generation of Gotham's heroes no longer operate in the shadows. They work with the people, helping them to understand that the struggle for justice isn't about relying on one figure, but about the collective strength of the community. Nightwing, who was once the boy wonder under Bruce's tutelage, now finds himself in a leadership position, not just as a protector of the streets, but as a mentor. His relationship with Bruce, shifts from that of a student and teacher to one of equals, though both continue to learn from each other. Dick Grayson's journey, while deeply tied to his adoptive father's mission, has always been one of self-discovery. As Nightwing, he brings his own leadership style, one that is less about fear and more about inspiration. He sees Gotham not as a battlefield, but as a community that can rise above its own darkness. In doing so, he becomes the bridge between Gotham's heroes and its citizens, teaching them the value of hope, compassion, and resilience. Batgirl, who has long struggled with the balance between personal vengeance and justice, finds her true purpose as a leader in the city's recovery. Her evolution from a sidekick to a force of her own is rooted in the lessons she has learned from Bruce, but also from her own experiences as someone who has lived with the trauma of Gotham's underworld. Barbara Gordon's resilience is not just about overcoming personal pain, but about helping others to heal from their own struggles. She works alongside Nightwing, Catwoman, and the GCPD, ensuring that Gotham's justice system isn't just about punishment, but about restoration. Her relationship with Bruce remains complex, but it becomes one of mutual respect, as she realizes that her strength does not lie in following in Bruce's footsteps, but in creating her own path. Selina Kyle, Catwoman, once an enigmatic figure driven by greed and self-interest, now plays a critical role in Gotham's rebirth. Her journey is one of redemption, as she realizes that the chaos she once thrived in is no longer satisfying. Instead, she sees the opportunity to use her skills for the greater good, not just for herself. Her resilience comes not from her physical strength, but from her ability to change, to shift from someone who operated in the shadows to someone who is willing to stand in the light and fight for Gotham. Through her relationship with Bruce, Selina learns that strength doesn't always come from fighting alone, but from collaborating and working together with others who share her vision for a better Gotham. Despite the progress Gotham has made, the city is still fragile. There are always new threats on the horizon, new villains who seek to test the resilience of Gotham and its heroes. Ra's al Ghul, though defeated, continues to have followers who believe in his vision of Gotham's destruction. The Joker, though silenced for now, still represents the chaos that lurks beneath the surface of the city. But Gotham is no longer a city defined by its villains. It is a city defined by its resilience, its unity, and its hope. Bruce's legacy as Batman is no longer just about his ability to strike fear into the hearts of criminals. It is about the legacy of hope he has passed on to the next generation of Gotham's defenders. The symbol of the bat has evolved from a figure of vengeance to one of inspiration, a symbol of what Gotham can achieve when its people stand together. Bruce, now more than just a protector, serves as a mentor, guiding Gotham's heroes not through fear, but through understanding. He teaches them that true resilience is not just about fighting for justice, but about believing in Gotham, believing that the city's future is worth fighting for. Through his leadership, Gotham begins to understand that its strength doesn't come from defeating its enemies, but from healing the wounds of the past and embracing a future built on unity and hope. As Gotham's recovery progresses, its transformation begins to reflect the resilience of its people. The fight against corruption, chaos, and crime is no longer just about Batman. It's about the entire city rising from the depths of its darkness. Bruce Wayne's decision to empower Gotham's citizens to place the future of the city in their hands marks a profound shift in the nature of his crusade. While Batman may have been the symbol of fear for Gotham's criminals, the true heroism now lies in the ordinary people who, despite their flaws and fears, choose to stand side by side in the fight for justice. Bruce's role as Batman was always defined by sacrifice, his willingness to bear the weight of Gotham's sins, to suffer in silence so that others wouldn't have to. But as he steps back from his role as Gotham's protector, Bruce realizes that the true strength of the city lies in its people's capacity to fight for themselves. This shift is not easy for Bruce. For years he has been conditioned to believe that only through his own efforts can Gotham be saved. But through his resilience, shaped by the trauma of his childhood and the weight of his experiences, Bruce finally understands that his real strength lies in helping others realize their own potential. The next phase of Gotham's recovery involves Bruce's transition from a vigilante hero to a leader, one who guides and mentors the next generation of Gotham's defenders. His relationships with those closest to him, Alfred, Nightwing, Batgirl, and Selina Kyle, become increasingly important as Gotham's transformation takes shape. Bruce, no longer fighting alone, begins to realize that Gotham's true resilience lies not in the superhuman abilities of Batman, but in the collective strength of its citizens, the people who have chosen to stand with him in the fight for justice. Nightwing Dick Grayson becomes Bruce's most trusted ally in this new phase. No longer a sidekick or apprentice, Dick has grown into his own, forging his path as a leader in Gotham's streets. His relationship with Bruce becomes one of mutual respect and collaboration. Nightwing leads the next generation of heroes, teaching them not only how to fight, but how to be leaders in their own right. Through Dick's leadership, the young heroes of Gotham learn that the struggle for justice is not just about punishing criminals. It's about shaping the future of the city, making it a place where hope is not just a symbol, but a reality. Batgirl Barbara Gordon also plays a critical role in Gotham's recovery. Her transition from vigilante to heroine of the people is marked by her wisdom and her ability to bring justice to the hearts of Gotham's citizens. No longer just a sidekick, Barbara becomes a trusted member of the leadership team, using her intelligence and skills to rebuild Gotham's institutions from the inside out. She works with the GCPD, advocating for a reformed justice system that works for the people, not just against them. Her resilience is not just physical, it is emotional, as she constantly confronts the trauma of her own past while fighting for a better future. Through Barbara's efforts, the criminal justice system in Gotham begins to evolve into something that represents hope and progress, not the systemic corruption that has plagued the city for so long. Selina Kyle, Catwoman, once defined by her selfishness and greed, has also undergone a transformation. Selina's journey is one of redemption, as she chooses to use her skills for the greater good rather than personal gain. Her role in Gotham's recovery becomes instrumental in rebuilding its economy and communities. Though she still walks the line between right and wrong, Selina's resilience lies in her ability to adapt, to evolve, and to help Gotham break free from the cycle of crime that once defined it. Her relationship with Bruce becomes more complex, as they both realize that they are no longer just fighting for Gotham's future, but for their own redemption. Together, they prove that even those with the darkest pasts can contribute to the creation of a brighter future. Gotham's recovery, however, is not without its setbacks. The criminal underworld is not easily vanquished, and new threats continue to emerge. The Joker, while physically absent, continues to haunt Gotham through his legacy of madness. His followers, those who have been shaped by his chaos, begin to rise up, determined to continue his work of destroying the city's hope. Their attacks are not just against Batman or the vigilantes, but against the very concept of hope that Bruce has spent so many years trying to instill in Gotham. The Joker's influence is insidious, spreading through the city's most vulnerable, reminding them that chaos can never truly be eradicated. It is in this moment that Bruce realizes that Gotham's recovery will never be complete, that the city will always be in a state of perpetual struggle. Yet it is also in this moment that he realizes that Gotham's strength lies not in the defeat of its enemies, but in its ability to stand firm in the face of unrelenting adversity. Bruce's greatest challenge comes not from Ra's al Ghul or the Joker, but from within. The question he faces is not whether he can defeat his enemies, but whether Gotham can continue to heal in the face of constant challenges. The realization dawns that Gotham's resilience is not simply about overcoming the past. It is about embracing the idea that the city can always be better. The true measure of Gotham's resilience lies not in its heroes or villains, but in the spirit of its people. As long as the people of Gotham continue to fight for justice, to choose hope over fear, and to embrace their own resilience, the city will never fall. Bruce may not have the answers to all of Gotham's problems, but he has taught the city one important lesson: that true resilience lies not in fighting alone, but in fighting together. As Bruce Wayne continues his transition from lone vigilante to mentor and leader, his role in Gotham's recovery takes on a deeper significance. His superhuman resilience, once focused on survival and vengeance, now extends to the rebuilding of Gotham's very soul. Bruce's ability to endure the physical pain and psychological scars of his past has shaped him into the man he is today, but it is his emotional endurance, his ability to accept vulnerability, and his capacity to empower others that truly defines his role in Gotham's new future. Throughout the years, Bruce has always seen himself as Gotham's protector, the one person capable of keeping the city's darkness at bay. But his journey has evolved from fighting crime to fostering hope. His superhuman resilience, once defined by his solitary quest for justice, is now focused on healing the very wounds that have defined Gotham's existence. Gotham's people, the very individuals who once feared him, now begin to see Bruce as a symbol of redemption, a beacon of hope rather than just a shadow in the night. Batman, the figure they once saw as a necessary evil, becomes a leader who demonstrates the strength of unity and the importance of community in the fight for justice. At the heart of Gotham's transformation is Bruce's relationship with his allies, Nightwing, Batgirl, and Catwoman, who, like Bruce, are forced to confront their own fears and traumas in order to rise as the new guardians of the city. Nightwing, once the young sidekick, has become a leader in his own right, guiding the next generation of Gotham's heroes. His resilience is tested as he grapples with the legacy of Batman, yet he finds strength in the idea that Gotham's future does not rest on the shoulders of one man, but on the collective will of its people. Dick Grayson's evolution from a boy in search of justice to a man committed to unity is one of the most powerful examples of resilience in Gotham's recovery. Meanwhile, Batgirl continues to be a force of nature in the city's fight for justice. Once a young girl driven by a desire to prove herself, Barbara Gordon has become a leader and a symbol of strength. Her resilience is not just about overcoming her own personal trauma, but about taking what she has learned and applying it to the healing of Gotham. Batgirl's role in rebuilding the justice system in Gotham is crucial, as she works alongside Gordon to ensure that the city's new heroes don't just fight crime, but they also reform the systems that perpetuate injustice. Her mental toughness and emotional intelligence serve as a model for Gotham's next generation of leaders, showing that true resilience isn't about fighting alone, it's about working together and learning from one another. Selina Kyle, Catwoman, despite her previous life of self-interest, becomes an integral part of Gotham's resurgence. Her resilience is rooted in her capacity to change, to let go of her past, and embrace a future that is not just about personal gain, but about helping others. Through her relationship with Bruce, Selina learns the value of selflessness and sacrifice. Together, they rebuild parts of Gotham's poorest districts, showing the people that redemption is not just a personal journey, but one that can extend to the city's most vulnerable communities. Her transformation from a thief to a heroine mirrors Gotham's own evolution, as the city learns to embrace change and fight for a better future. As these heroes step into their roles, Bruce begins to step back, understanding that his work is no longer about defeating Gotham's enemies through force, but about empowering its people. Bruce's internal battle with his own humanity continues, but now it's less about denying his emotions and more about accepting them. Gotham's recovery, while still fraught with struggles and challenges, becomes a collective effort, a realization that the strength of a city lies not in the heroes who fight in the shadows, but in the people who come together in the light to build something better. But despite the progress Gotham has made, its future is still uncertain. Ra's al Ghul's influence has faded, but his followers still seek to reshape the world through radical change. The Joker, despite his absence, has left a lasting imprint on the minds of Gotham's citizens. His chaos and psychological warfare continue to affect the city's underbelly, and there will always be those who are tempted to believe in his vision of anarchy. Gotham, despite its resilience, remains vulnerable to the forces that have long defined it: fear, doubt, and corruption. Bruce knows that Gotham's resilience is not something that can be assumed or taken for granted. It is a constant battle, one that will require the unity and dedication of the people of Gotham. The true strength of Gotham lies not in its heroes, but in its citizens. Gotham's future depends on the choice its people make each day. Will they stand together in the face of chaos, or will they allow the darkness to reclaim the city? Bruce's superhuman resilience is not about fighting alone, but about inspiring others to believe in the future they can create together. As Bruce Wayne steps further into his role as Gotham's spiritual leader, his superhuman resilience becomes more than just a personal defense mechanism. It becomes the catalyst for a collective awakening. Gotham, though still beset by criminal forces and despair, is beginning to heal, not through the efforts of a lone man in a cape, but through the strength of its citizens, who have learned to rise together in the face of chaos. Bruce, having long been driven by the trauma of his past, realizes that the true test of his resilience is not in continuing to fight in the shadows, but in teaching others how to stand tall without needing a figure like Batman to guide them. This realization brings Bruce Wayne to a crossroads. His entire life has been spent struggling with grief and loss, using Batman as both his shield and his weapon. But now, as Gotham's recovery becomes a collective effort, Bruce understands that his superhuman resilience is not about enduring endless battles or sacrificing himself for the greater good. Instead, it is about empowering others to carry the torch. The Dark Knight's mission was always about restoring justice to a city ravaged by darkness, but in the end, Batman becomes more than just the symbol of fear. He becomes the symbol of hope for the future. A future where Gotham's people don't just rely on a superhuman figure to protect them, but learn to protect themselves. Bruce's role as Batman has always been to fill the gap left by the city's failure to protect its own. Gotham's leaders and institutions have always been plagued by corruption and inefficiency, leaving a power vacuum that allowed criminals and anarchists to thrive. But as Bruce learns to trust the people of Gotham, he realizes that the city's strength lies in unity, not in the lone crusader who fights in the dark, but in the collective resolve of the people who, together, can create a society built on justice, hope, and resilience. It is through the empowerment of Gotham's citizens, through heroes like Nightwing, Batgirl, and Catwoman, and the ordinary men and women who stand by them, that Gotham begins to understand that it doesn't need a Batman anymore. It needs a community. The concept of community becomes a cornerstone of Bruce's evolving understanding of resilience. While he has always fought alone, Bruce now sees that the power of hope cannot come from a single individual. His own superhuman resilience is not something he can hoard for himself, it must be shared. Nightwing, Batgirl, and Catwoman each begin to understand their roles as leaders in their own right, not just as sides to the Batman, but as individuals who fight for Gotham's soul. The city, once torn apart by violence and despair, now sees that the real fight is not about defeating criminals, but about building a future where Gotham's people don't need a dark knight to save them. As Gotham's heroes continue to evolve, so too does the city itself. The GCPD is reformed, no longer a force of corruption but one of collaboration. The work Bruce started is now continued by others. People like Barbara Gordon, who helps bridge the gap between vigilantism and law enforcement, showing that justice can exist within the system while still working outside it. Nightwing takes his place as a leader in Gotham's streets, guiding the youth of the city to become the heroes of tomorrow. Selina Kyle, having found her own redemption, now works to repair the broken and disenfranchised parts of Gotham, ensuring that no one is left behind as the city rebuilds. But even in this moment of unity, Gotham's resilience is tested by the darker elements that remain. Ra's al Ghul, though no longer in power, still holds sway over some factions within the city. His belief in the destruction of Gotham as a means to rebirth continues to echo in the underground, with secret societies and radical elements trying to dismantle the progress that has been made. These forces are not as overt or as chaotic as the Joker's, but they are no less dangerous. They represent the unseen forces of discontent, always seeking to pull Gotham back into the darkness from which it has begun to emerge. In the face of these threats, Bruce continues to fight, but not in the same way he once did. He no longer sees himself as the sole protector of Gotham. His superhuman resilience is now about guiding others, about helping Gotham's heroes and its people to realize that their future is in their hands. Bruce's role is no longer to fight for Gotham, but to help it rise. He becomes a symbol, not of fear or vengeance, but of resilience. His legacy is no longer about the Dark Knight who worked in the shadows, but the man who showed Gotham that true power lies not in the ability to endure pain, but in the ability to stand together and overcome it. Gotham's true resilience comes from its people, their ability to overcome the pain and chaos of their past, and to build a future where they are not defined by their suffering. Bruce's superhuman resilience is not the foundation of Gotham's survival, but the spark that ignited the fire of hope in the hearts of its citizens. Gotham, now more than ever, is a city that fights together, where the people, and not just the heroes, take responsibility for their city. Bruce may no longer be the lone protector, but he has created a legacy that will continue to inspire the next generation of Gotham's defenders. As Bruce watches Gotham continue to evolve, he realizes that his superhuman resilience, shaped by pain, sacrifice, and loss, has transformed into something even more powerful, a legacy of hope that will live on in Gotham's future. The city's rebirth is not his alone, but the result of everyone who has chosen to stand up and fight for what is right. Gotham is resilient because its people have chosen to believe that it can be better, and with that belief, they will continue to shape a city of hope for generations to come. As Gotham's transformation deepens, the true test of Bruce Wayne's legacy begins to unfold. The city that once thrived in the shadows of corruption, violence, and fear, is slowly emerging into something brighter, something resilient and hopeful. But while Gotham's collective strength grows, the path to redemption is never straightforward. Even with the rise of a new generation of heroes, new threats loom on the horizon, testing the very resilience that Gotham has come to embrace. In many ways, Bruce's superhuman resilience is still essential, but now it is not about simply enduring the physical pain or psychological scars of his past. It's about ensuring that the city's healing continues even when the weight of the world seems too much to bear. Gotham's heroes, those who once followed in Bruce's footsteps, are now taking their own leadership roles, each forging their paths while carrying the legacy that Bruce started. Yet, even as Gotham continues to heal, the threats of the past never quite fade, lurking in the corners of the city. The Joker's madness may have been temporarily subdued, but his influence is still felt. His followers, radicalized by his chaotic philosophy, infiltrate Gotham's underground, sowing discord among those who have begun to rebuild. These are not the loud, boisterous, and over-the-top criminals that Bruce once faced, but a new breed of subversive radicals, those who seek to undo the city's progress through manipulation and psychological warfare. They do not need the chaos of the streets. Instead, they work in the shadows, spreading fear and mistrust among Gotham's citizens, challenging everything Bruce has worked for. This resurgence of psychological warfare forces Bruce to confront an uncomfortable truth. Gotham's resilience, while strong, is still fragile. The external threat of Gotham's enemies has evolved, and now the real battle is one of perception and trust. The Joker's followers don't just challenge Gotham's physical security, they challenge its hope. In their attempt to reclaim chaos, they target the very idea that Gotham can heal, whispering doubts into the ears of its people, telling them that Gotham will always be a city of darkness. Bruce understands this new form of threat better than anyone. He has fought the Joker's madness before, but now the battle is different. The fight is not about brute strength or technology. It is about mental endurance, about holding on to hope in a world that seems determined to tear it down. Batman's resilience, in this moment, is not just his ability to withstand physical pain, it is his mental clarity and emotional intelligence that become his most important weapon. Gotham's recovery does not just need Batman to fight criminals, it needs Bruce to teach the city to trust in its own ability to reclaim its future. As Bruce Wayne steps into this new phase of leadership, he comes to terms with the fact that his greatest challenge is not the defeat of villains, it is the transformation of Gotham itself. The city is filled with darkness, but it also has the potential for light. And while the Joker's followers threaten to undo all the progress, Bruce realizes that Gotham's strength lies not in its heroes, but in the belief of its citizens. Gotham cannot rely on Batman forever. It needs people who believe in the city's resilience, people who are willing to stand together, fight for justice, and embrace hope, even when the world seems stacked against them. Bruce's realization about hope marks a shift in his own journey. He begins to understand that the city's recovery will not happen overnight, and that his superhuman resilience is not about fighting harder or winning every battle, but about sustaining the belief that Gotham can be better. His transformation from the lone crusader to the leader of Gotham's hope is now complete. Batman is no longer just the protector of Gotham. He is the symbol of what the city can become if it chooses to stand together in the face of its deepest darkness. Bruce's role is now more about inspiring than leading from the front. He understands that hope must be shared, not just embodied by a single figure. His journey is about letting go of the idea that one man can change the world and instead fostering the belief that Gotham's true strength lies in the hearts of its people. It is through the empowerment of Gotham's citizens that Bruce realizes his superhuman resilience is no longer needed to carry the city, but to guide it, to give it the tools it needs to stand on its own. The Gotham City that Bruce fought for is beginning to emerge, not as a perfect city, but as a city that chooses to build on its past, to acknowledge its flaws, and to work toward a better future. Bruce's legacy is one of hope, not the hope of an individual, but the hope of a community. Gotham's people, once divided and broken, now stand united, not just by fear of the criminals who plague them, but by their belief in a future that is worth fighting for. They understand that Batman was never the answer. They were. As Bruce Wayne looks back on the journey that brought him from a child shaped by trauma to a man forged by resilience, he realizes that his true legacy is not the endless battle against crime or the defeat of villains, but the inspiration he has given to Gotham's people. He has shown them that resilience is not about surviving but about thriving, about choosing to stand together in the face of adversity. The city's future no longer rests on one man's shoulders but on the strength of its people, and Bruce has finally come to terms with the fact that his mission has been completed. The heroes who once followed him in the shadows are now the leaders of a new era for Gotham. Nightwing, Batgirl, and Selina Kyle continue their work, not because they are Batman's sidekicks, but because they are leaders in their own right, each embodying a different aspect of Gotham's resilience. Gotham's true strength comes not from the darkness Batman used to fight, but from the light his legacy has ignited in the hearts of those who believe in the city's potential. Bruce Wayne's superhuman resilience may have been born from trauma and grief, but it has now become something greater, a legacy of hope, a belief in the power of unity, and a commitment to a better Gotham that will live on long after he is gone. As Gotham's transformation continues to unfold, the city is not merely recovering, it is evolving. The collective resilience of its people becomes the true measure of its strength. Bruce Wayne may no longer be the Batman in the shadows, but the legacy of hope he has left behind is now a living, breathing force. Nightwing, Batgirl, Catwoman, and the many other emerging heroes of Gotham are now symbols of hope in their own right, standing as proof that Gotham's future does not rest on the shoulders of any one individual. It is a shared responsibility, a bond forged from the city's darkest moments, but sustained by the brightest future that lies ahead. This new Gotham is defined not by fear, but by its commitment to rise above its history. Bruce Wayne's journey from a boy who witnessed the murder of his parents to a man who became Batman has always been one of self-sacrifice, but now that journey is evolving into one of shared leadership. Bruce, having fought for so long as a solitary figure, now understands that resilience is not about fighting alone, but about fostering unity. Gotham's healing does not lie in the hands of a single hero, but in the hearts of its people who have learned to trust in each other and in the future they are building together. One of the most significant tests for Gotham comes in the form of a new generation of villains, not the old criminals who have long plagued the city, but a younger, more radical breed of anarchists and extremists who seek to tear down the very hope that Bruce and his allies have worked so hard to establish. These new threats are not born out of revenge or greed, but from a desire to destroy the idea of hope itself. They see Gotham's recovery as a threat to their vision of the world, one where chaos reigns and order is a myth. They represent the final remnants of the Joker's madness, the idea that a city that has been torn apart by violence and corruption can never truly heal. But Gotham's heroes, empowered by the resilience of the city's people, are determined to prove them wrong. In response to these new threats, Bruce Wayne once again steps into the fray, not as Batman but as the founder of Gotham's resurgence, guiding the new heroes and teaching them that resilience is not about fighting darkness but about creating light. He helps them understand that while violence may be necessary in moments of defense, true power lies in building something better, something that lasts. Nightwing, Batgirl, and Catwoman, each in their own way, take on this leadership role, using their abilities and wisdom to guide Gotham's people through their new challenges. For Nightwing, this is a natural progression of his journey. Once the sidekick, he is now a leader, fully embracing his role as Gotham's protector. Dick Grayson no longer seeks to be the shadow of Batman, but a hero in his own right, someone who leads not through fear, but through inspiration. His approach is one of compassion, empathy, and a willingness to fight alongside Gotham's citizens rather than standing apart from them. He teaches Gotham's people that strength lies not in punishment but in the power of unity, and that true resilience comes from building connections that can withstand the storms of life. Batgirl Barbara Gordon, too, rises to meet this new challenge with the wisdom and strength that has always defined her. Her journey from victim to heroine has been one of healing, both personally and for the city. She becomes a key figure in Gotham's recovery, working closely with the GCPD to ensure that the justice system is reformed and just. Barbara understands that resilience is not just about fighting crime, it's about healing wounds, creating fairness, and ensuring that Gotham's institutions are built to serve the people. Her focus is on the recovery of the community, ensuring that no one is left behind in the wake of Gotham's struggle. Selina Kyle, Catwoman, plays a crucial role in this new era of Gotham's leadership. Her own journey from criminal to heroine mirrors that of the city. Once driven by greed and self-interest, she now channels her skills and influence to help rebuild the city's economy, particularly focusing on reforming the marginalized communities that have long been neglected. Selina's resilience comes from her ability to change, to learn from her past mistakes, and use them to help others. She becomes a key player in Gotham's economic recovery, ensuring that the city's wealth is distributed more equitably and that no one is left to suffer in the darkness. Despite the progress, there are still forces of resistance that aim to prevent Gotham's complete recovery. The city is constantly in danger of sliding back into the chaos that once defined it, and Bruce knows that even as Gotham continues to rebuild, the work is never truly done. The radicals and criminals who seek to bring Gotham down are still a threat, and they will test the resilience of the city's leaders and its people. But this time, Gotham is ready. Bruce's role in this new era is not about being Batman or fighting on the front lines. It is about leading from within and empowering others to take up the mantle of heroism. His journey has come full circle. Once driven by revenge and the need to avenge his parents, Bruce now sees that true justice is not about personal vengeance, but about helping others rise. He has shared his strength, his wisdom, and his resilience, and Gotham's future is no longer defined by the darkness of the past, but by the hope of a united community. The final phase of Bruce Wayne's journey is one of reflection and acceptance. He understands now that Gotham's resilience is not about defeating every villain or solving every problem. It is about embracing the city's imperfections, its struggles, and its strengths, and finding a way to move forward together. Gotham is no longer a city at war with itself. It is a city at peace, one that has embraced its future and has begun to heal from the wounds of its past. As Gotham's recovery reaches a tipping point, the city's transformation begins to take on a life of its own. The hope that Bruce Wayne cultivated through his superhuman resilience starts to permeate through every corner of the city. Where once there was corruption, despair, and violence, now there are moments of renewal, community, and solidarity. The heroes who once followed Batman's lead now lead in their own right, but more importantly, they lead with the people. Gotham is no longer defined solely by its criminals or its pain. It is defined by the resilience and determination of its people to reclaim their city and build a future on their own terms. The next generation of heroes is not only fighting to protect Gotham, but also to shape it, to create a better place for those who have been forgotten. These heroes, Nightwing, Batgirl, Catwoman, and others, are no longer just the fighting force of the city. They are its leaders, working with Gotham's citizens to establish new systems of justice, to rebuild communities, and to bring the city's fragmented pieces back together. They know that Gotham's true strength lies not in fighting alone, but in coming together to face the challenges that have long plagued the city. Nightwing, as Gotham's leader in the streets, not only fights crime but also works to inspire the city's youth to become the next generation of heroes. His resilience is not in his physical ability to take down criminals, but in his ability to inspire hope. Dick Grayson's leadership is founded on the belief that the future of Gotham rests not just on the shoulders of those with special abilities, but on those who are willing to stand for what is right. People from all walks of life who can rise above the darkness of the past. Batgirl, on the other hand, works tirelessly to transform Gotham's justice system. As a vigilante, she understands the limits of the system, but as a leader, she seeks to reform it. Her focus is on restoring trust in the city's institutions, working with the GCPD to build a police force that serves the people, not the corruption that once poisoned it. Her role in the city's healing is crucial because she represents the bridge between vigilantism and institutional justice. She knows that Gotham needs both a reformed system and the vigilant heroes who ensure the system doesn't fail. Selina Kyle, though once a figure of self-interest, now uses her position in Gotham's elite to reinvest in the city's most downtrodden areas. Her resilience comes from her ability to reinvent herself, to take the skills and resources she once used for her own benefit and put them towards something greater, the city's recovery. Through her, Bruce begins to see that Gotham can heal not just through fighting, but through forgiveness, self-redemption, and community building. Her role as a savior of Gotham's forgotten is as crucial as any other hero's, for she reminds the people of the city that change is possible, that the past doesn't have to define the future. But as Gotham begins to heal, it is not without continued trials. The remnants of Ra's al Ghul's League of Assassins still lurk in the shadows, hoping to find a way to rebirth Gotham through destruction. Their influence, though diminished, has not completely evaporated. These remnants are determined to bring about a new order, one that they believe can only be achieved through Gotham's cleansing. However, Gotham's heroes, now more unified and powerful than ever, stand together to face the new threat, proving that the city's future is no longer in the hands of a single man or a single group of criminals. Gotham is stronger because it has learned to unite in the face of danger, drawing strength from its resilience and its collective will. Even as these challenges arise, Bruce Wayne's role in the city continues to shift. No longer needing to fight in the shadows as Batman, Bruce realizes that true leadership is not about fighting for Gotham, but about enabling Gotham's citizens to fight for themselves. He continues to serve as a guide and a mentor, teaching the new generation of heroes the lessons he learned through his own struggles. He recognizes that Gotham's resilience is not just built on fighting evil, but on embracing the light, on recognizing that despite the darkness, the future can be shaped by the choices made today. Bruce's role as a mentor takes on new meaning as he focuses on passing on the legacy of hope and resilience to those who will carry the city forward. He continues to work with the GCPD, providing them with the resources they need to create a reformed law enforcement system. He invests in the city's infrastructure, ensuring that Gotham's poorest areas receive the help they need to break free from the cycles of poverty that have kept them in the shadows. His leadership is no longer about controlling Gotham, but about empowering others to take ownership of their own futures. Through this, he creates a system of resilience that extends far beyond Gotham's walls, one that will ensure the city's continued growth and healing for generations to come. Despite the progress, Bruce also understands that Gotham's resilience is not a destination but a journey that will be tested again and again. The challenges will always be present, whether they are new villains seeking to tear the city apart or internal struggles within the city's leadership. But Gotham has learned an important lesson from Bruce. Resilience is not about defeating every enemy. It is about enduring through the struggles and staying committed to building a future where hope is the guiding light. Bruce's evolution, from a man driven by vengeance to a leader driven by hope, marks the culmination of his life's work. The superhuman resilience that was once a necessity for survival has transformed into a beacon of hope, guiding the future of Gotham. And while the legacy of Batman will always remain an essential part of Gotham's story, it is the legacy of Gotham's people, their strength, their resilience, and their unity that will shape the city's future for years to come. As Gotham continues to evolve into a city founded on hope, resilience, and unity, Bruce Wayne's legacy becomes more than just the symbol of Batman. It's about empowering others to become the heroes they were meant to be. While Bruce may no longer operate from the shadows of Gotham's underworld, his influence stretches far beyond the cape and cowl. He has spent his life fighting alone, but now he understands that true strength is in community and shared responsibility. The heroes of Gotham, Nightwing, Batgirl, Catwoman, and even new faces like Batwoman, have taken on the mantle of leadership, but it is the city's people who have begun to embrace their own resilience. They no longer wait for Batman to save them. Instead, they are taking the initiative, standing up to the chaos and corruption that has long defined their home. Gotham has finally begun to believe in its ability to overcome, not through violence, but through hope, collaboration, and dedication. Bruce's transition from Batman to mentor is a testament to his own growth. He is no longer just the brooding, haunted figure who fights darkness in isolation. He has become the guide, not just for Gotham's heroes, but for its people. His superhuman resilience has shifted from the ability to endure pain to a deeper understanding of how to build something lasting. Bruce now works not just to defend Gotham, but to empower it, to ensure that the future of the city is no longer dependent on the strength of a single vigilante, but on the collective will of its citizens. Nightwing, for example, is not just a sidekick or a young hero learning the ropes. He has grown into his own as a leader, a symbol of hope for Gotham's youth. Under his guidance, Gotham's next generation of heroes emerges. They are not bound by the past or by the legacy of Batman. Instead, they are defined by their own strengths, their own personal struggles, and their own missions to heal the city. Nightwing's leadership is founded on his ability to connect with the people of Gotham, to inspire them to see that they too can be the change they want to see in their world. His resilience is not just in his combat skills, but in his ability to build relationships, to create trust, and to empower others to take on the mantle of heroism. Batgirl, whose relationship with Bruce has always been one of respect, has now become a pivotal figure in Gotham's resurgence. Her focus has shifted from the personal revenge that once drove her to a deeper understanding of what it means to lead and serve. Barbara Gordon's resilience comes not just from her ability to fight criminals, but from her moral clarity, her understanding that justice is not just about punishment, but about restoring balance to the city's broken systems. Through her work, Gotham's justice system undergoes a transformation, one that ensures accountability and fairness. She builds relationships with those within the GCPD, teaching them that true justice comes when you work with the community to create lasting solutions, not just temporary fixes. Her leadership in the reform of Gotham's police force solidifies her position as a key figure in the city's new era. Catwoman Selina Kyle, once a figure who walked the fine line between good and evil, has fully embraced her role as a reformer and a protector of Gotham's most vulnerable. Selina's resilience is defined by her redemption, the transformation from someone driven by self-interest to someone driven by a desire to protect Gotham's people. She uses her skills in stealth and intelligence not to further her own gain, but to ensure that the wealth of Gotham is redistributed and that the marginalized have the resources they need to survive. Selina's transformation symbolizes Gotham's larger journey from a city of greed and corruption to one of compassion and solidarity. Her work extends beyond her own actions. She has become a leader in Gotham's economic reform, ensuring that the city's resources benefit everyone, not just the elite. Even as Gotham continues to thrive under the leadership of these heroes, new challenges emerge. The remnants of Ra's al Ghul's League of Assassins continue to operate in the shadows, trying to undermine the progress that has been made. Radicals who believe that Gotham's destruction is the only way to redeem the city rise up, attempting to destroy everything Bruce has fought for. These new threats are more subtle than the previous ones. They don't attack the city head-on. They infiltrate its institutions, manipulate its systems, and sow distrust among the people. Bruce, though no longer Batman, finds himself drawn back into the fray, not as a figure of vengeance, but as a mentor to Gotham's new defenders. The biggest challenge Bruce faces, however, is learning to let go. He has spent his entire life driven by revenge, guilt, and the need to protect Gotham. His resilience, forged in the fires of loss and pain, has allowed him to endure where others would have fallen. But as Gotham heals, Bruce must come to terms with the fact that his role has shifted. He is no longer the shadowy protector of the city. He is the guiding light, the symbol of hope that inspires others to stand tall. His journey is no longer about fighting in the dark, but about lighting the way for the next generation of Gotham's heroes. Bruce's superhuman resilience has always been the foundation of his strength, but in the end, it is his ability to share that strength, to build relationships, and to empower others that truly defines his legacy. Gotham is no longer just a city shaped by violence and trauma. It is a city that has learned to rise above its past, to embrace its flaws, and to build something better. Batman, the symbol that once struck fear into the hearts of criminals, is now a symbol of hope, resilience, and unity for Gotham's people. The heroes who once followed Bruce's lead now lead Gotham into a new era, one where resilience is no longer about surviving, but about thriving together. In the end, Gotham's greatest strength is not its heroes, but its people. The men and women who, despite their flaws and fears, choose to stand together and build a future in the light. Bruce Wayne's legacy is not just the Dark Knight, but the hope he has given to a city that now knows that its resilience is not defined by the sacrifices of one man, but by the collective will of those who are willing to fight for justice, build unity, and never give up. Gotham may have been born in darkness, but it will rise in the light. As Gotham continues its journey of rebirth, the new heroes rising from the city's ashes represent not just the next generation of protectors, but also the hope for a future where Gotham is not ruled by its darkness. While Bruce Wayne's legacy is deeply embedded in the city's resilience, it is now the collective strength of Gotham's people that will truly determine the future of the city. The new era of Gotham is marked not by the presence of Batman in the shadows, but by the presence of the people rising to face the city's challenges. Bruce, for all his power, knows that his time as the lone crusader has passed. Gotham no longer needs him to be Batman. What the city needs now is for him to be the mentor, the symbol of resilience and unity that will continue to inspire generations to come. Nightwing, the once young sidekick, now stands tall as Gotham's leader. His journey from Robin to Nightwing is complete, and he has stepped into the role of city protector in a way Bruce never imagined. Dick Grayson's leadership style is a reflection of his training under Bruce, but it is also shaped by his own experiences as an individual who is both separated from Batman's shadow and inspired by it. As Nightwing, he not only continues Bruce's fight for justice, but also teaches Gotham's people that heroism comes in many forms, from courageous police officers to ordinary citizens who take a stand in their communities. Nightwing knows that Gotham's future is not just about defeating villains, it's about empowering the people to take charge of their own future. At Barbara Gordon's side, Gotham's future is being redefined. Batgirl's evolution from a vigilante into a leader of reform has been one of the most profound in Gotham's transformation. No longer just fighting in the shadows, Barbara has taken on the mantle of a beacon of change, working tirelessly within the Gotham Police Department to enact reforms that will ensure justice is fair and equal for all its citizens. Batgirl's leadership goes beyond criminal justice. She is also dedicated to addressing the systemic inequalities within the city, working with community leaders and activists to build a new system of social support, one that nurtures the most vulnerable citizens and ensures no one is left behind. Bruce's role as a mentor takes on new depth as he watches Batgirl and Nightwing take leadership roles. His previous obsession with fighting alone gives way to an understanding that true resilience is not about shouldering the burden on your own, but about creating a community of strength. Gotham's heroes, each with their own experiences and struggles, have become the embodiment of the city's resilience, individuals who, through their strength, wisdom, and compassion, work together to carry the torch for Gotham. And as Gotham heals, Bruce realizes that he does not need to be Batman to save the city. His role is now that of a guide, someone who helps others find their strength. Yet, despite the progress Gotham has made, it remains a city constantly threatened by forces of destruction, both external and internal. Ra's al Ghul's League of Assassins, though weakened, continues to operate in the shadows, using covert tactics to sow seeds of doubt and fear among Gotham's people. Their radical ideology, which espouses the destruction of Gotham in order to create a new order, finds sympathy in some of the city's most disenfranchised corners. These radical factions are not easily defeated. Their power lies not in brute force, but in their ability to manipulate Gotham's vulnerabilities, its distrust of authority, its fear of failure, and its long-standing tradition of corruption. Gotham's resilience is put to the test once again as these dark forces seek to undermine the city's fragile progress. But what Gotham's enemies fail to recognize is that the true strength of the city is no longer in its criminals or its villains. It lies in the collective resilience of its citizens, its heroes, and its leaders. Bruce Wayne may have started this fight as a lone crusader, but he has come to understand that Gotham's strength is in its unity. The people of Gotham are no longer passive observers, they are the active participants in their city's rebirth. Batman, while still a legend, is no longer the hero Gotham needs. The city needs people who will stand together, who will build something better, and who will not succumb to the forces of fear that have long defined its existence. In this new era, Gotham begins to understand the true nature of hope. Hope is not a fleeting emotion or an idealized dream. It is something that must be earned and protected, a collective belief that despite the darkness, the city's people can shape their future. Gotham is no longer a city of criminals, but a city of resilience, where its heroes lead by example, where its leaders work for justice, and where its citizens know that they are part of something greater than themselves. The true test of Gotham's resilience is not how many villains it can defeat or how many criminals it can lock away. It's about the people who continue to rise above the darkness, the villains, and the obstacles. The future of Gotham will not be defined by the past. It will be defined by the will of its people to fight for a future that is better than the one they've inherited. Bruce Wayne, the man who once walked the lonely path of vengeance, now watches over a city that has found its own strength. He sees that Batman's resilience is not just about enduring pain or suffering, but about giving others the power to create change. Gotham, for all its faults and dark history, is now a city of hope, healing, and redemption. Bruce's final lesson, the one that he teaches Gotham and himself, is that resilience isn't just about surviving, it's about building something greater for the future. As Gotham continues to grow, the new heroes rise not just as protectors, but as symbols of the city's potential. Each one of them carries with them the legacy of Batman, but they also bring their own unique perspectives, strengths, and visions of what Gotham can become. These figures, Nightwing, Batgirl, Catwoman, and others, are no longer defined by the shadow of Batman. They have moved beyond their roles as mere sidekicks or apprentices to become leaders in their own right. They are the guardians of hope, and they now carry the mantle of Gotham's future forward. Nightwing, the first to take up the mantle of a hero independent of Batman, has found his own purpose in Gotham's streets. Dick Grayson's journey from the boy wonder to a city protector has been long and challenging. His resilience, however, is not just in his ability to fight or his physical prowess, but in his ability to embrace the city's citizens. Dick understands that hope is not just about fear or violence, it is about inspiring others to take charge of their own future. Nightwing's leadership becomes the foundation for Gotham's recovery. His style is not one of intimidation, but of trust, hope, and collaboration. He teaches the people of Gotham that they do not have to fear the darkness because they have the power to build their own future, a future where the city's strength is rooted in its unity. Batgirl, whose evolution from a sidekick to a leader mirrors that of Nightwing, is now focused on reforming Gotham's systems. Her time as Batgirl has always been about more than just fighting crime. It has been about understanding the structures of power in Gotham and ensuring that those in power serve the people. Barbara Gordon's leadership has seen her move beyond vigilantism to work directly within the justice system. She has worked tirelessly with the GCPD, ensuring that Gotham's law enforcement isn't simply a tool of punishment, but one of rehabilitation. Batgirl becomes the voice of the reformed justice system, working alongside Gordon and others to address the deep-rooted issues of corruption and inequality. Through her, Gotham's police force becomes a symbol of what is possible when a city decides to heal its broken systems instead of perpetuating their dysfunction. Even Catwoman, once a criminal driven by self-interest, has become an essential figure in Gotham's healing. Her role in Gotham's economic recovery can't be overstated. Selina Kyle's skills, honed through years of stealth and intelligence, are now used for the greater good. She is deeply involved in rebuilding Gotham's poorest areas, ensuring that the marginalized and vulnerable have access to resources they were once denied. Selina's resilience comes from her ability to change, to evolve from someone who lived for herself to someone who lives for the city's future. Her role in rebuilding Gotham's economy and addressing poverty makes her one of the most important players in the city's recovery. But perhaps more importantly, Selina teaches Gotham's people that redemption is always possible, that the city can rise above its own darkness and move towards something better. While these new heroes continue to lead the charge for Gotham's rebirth, there are still forces of resistance trying to undo the progress made. The radical factions of Ra's al Ghul's League of Assassins continue to work in the shadows, trying to exploit Gotham's vulnerabilities. They see the city's healing as a threat to their vision of the world, a world where chaos reigns and Gotham is nothing more than a playground for the destructive forces of nature. These factions are more subversive than the open warfare of the past, using political manipulation, psychological tactics, and subtle infiltration to spread discord and division. Their goal is not just to tear down Gotham, but to undermine the very spirit of resilience that has allowed the city to rise. In the face of these new threats, Bruce Wayne knows that Gotham's recovery cannot rest on the shoulders of its heroes alone. It is up to the people of Gotham, the everyday citizens, the workers, the activists, and the leaders, to build a future that is no longer dependent on the actions of a single man. Bruce's role, once focused on fighting in the shadows, now turns to mentorship and empowerment. He is no longer the one leading the charge, but the one guiding the new generation of heroes and citizens, helping them to find the strength within themselves to carry the city forward. Gotham's strength lies not just in the heroes who defend it, but in its people, those who have suffered, endured, and now choose to stand together to ensure that Gotham's future is one of hope and justice. Through the collective resilience of its citizens, Gotham begins to emerge not as a city defined by its trauma, but as a city that has transformed that trauma into strength. The heroes of Gotham, while still fighting in the streets and battling criminals, are now joined by the people who are building a future where crime and corruption can no longer thrive. Bruce Wayne's legacy, while founded in the darkness, now serves as a beacon of light, not just for Gotham's criminals, but for its heroes and citizens alike. Batman may no longer be needed, but the lessons he has instilled in Gotham remain. Hope, resilience, and community have become the bedrock upon which the future is built. Gotham is no longer a city under the shadow of its past. It is a city that has learned to embrace its future, and that future is defined by the strength and unity of its people. The symbol of Batman, once one of fear, now stands as one of hope, a hope that Gotham's resilience will continue to grow, thriving in the face of adversity. As Gotham progresses from the dark abyss it once inhabited, the continued evolution of its resilience is marked by the unwavering efforts of the city's people. The initial transformation, spurred by Bruce Wayne's superhuman resilience, is now being carried forward by a generation of new leaders, heroes, and civilians alike, who work tirelessly to shape a new Gotham. One that stands not only in the face of its past, but with its back turned toward the future. This is a city that has learned that true strength doesn't come from battles fought in the shadows, but from collective action, community involvement, and a shared vision of a better tomorrow. At the heart of Gotham's resurgence lies Nightwing, who, having stepped out of Batman's shadow, now represents not only the courage and bravery of Gotham's future, but also its unity. His leadership, unlike the solitary figure of Batman, is about collaboration, about learning from the people around him, and about building the future hand in hand with those who will inherit it. Dick Grayson's resilience lies in his ability to inspire, to show the people of Gotham that the city isn't just a place of pain and despair, but one of potential, where change is possible and hope is more than just an ideal. It's a real force that can be harnessed and nurtured. Through Nightwing, the youth of Gotham are given the tools to become the leaders of tomorrow, empowered to step into their roles as protectors, teachers, and visionaries. Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, is likewise pivotal in this transformation. As a leader in her own right, she represents the future of Gotham's justice system. Her resilience is not only about overcoming the pain of her past, but also about taking the lessons learned from that pain and applying them to a new system of justice, one that is fair, inclusive, and restorative. Barbara's leadership is defined by her commitment to rebuilding Gotham's institutions, not by perpetuating cycles of vengeance and punishment, but by creating a justice system that works to heal the city rather than punish its citizens. Her efforts to reform the GCPD and work alongside community leaders to restore faith in Gotham's justice system become central to the city's ability to truly evolve. For Selina Kyle, Gotham's economic revitalization has become her main focus. Once defined by her self-interest and criminal past, Selina now uses her skills to rebuild the economically depressed areas of Gotham, ensuring that the most vulnerable are no longer left to the margins of society. Her resilience comes from her ability to adapt and transform, using the skills she once used for personal gain to help others. Selina's efforts help to break the cycle of poverty that has haunted Gotham for so long, demonstrating that true redemption comes from service to others. Through her leadership, Gotham's forgotten communities begin to see a future where they have access to opportunity, education, and the ability to rise above the circumstances that once defined them. However, the road to Gotham's complete recovery is still a challenging one. Despite the incredible strides made by the city, there are forces of resistance, both internal and external, that threaten to undo all the progress Gotham has achieved. Ra's al Ghul's League of Assassins, though fractured, still seeks to destroy Gotham in order to rebuild it in its own image. The remnants of his followers, now operating in subtle ways, attempt to infiltrate the reformed structures of Gotham's power. They know that Gotham's resilience lies in its ability to fight back against forces of destruction, and their mission is to weaken the city's unity, to make it vulnerable again to the darkness that once consumed it. Meanwhile, new figures begin to rise within Gotham's underworld, figures who want to take advantage of the city's fragile recovery. They represent the criminal resurgence, a radicalized element that seeks to undermine the progress made by the city's heroes. These new enemies are more intelligent, more manipulative, and more subtle than their predecessors. They target not just the criminal justice system, but the very essence of hope that has become the foundation of Gotham's resurgence. Their objective is to destroy Gotham's faith in its own ability to heal and to return the city to its former chaos. Despite these challenges, Gotham's resilience is no longer defined by fear or darkness. It is defined by hope, unity, and the strength of its people. The city is no longer at the mercy of its villains, but in the hands of those who choose to rise above the darkness, to build something better together. Bruce Wayne, while still playing a role in Gotham's recovery, has come to see that his superhuman resilience, shaped by years of suffering and loss, has now morphed into something greater. the hope of Gotham itself. Bruce understands that his legacy is no longer about being the lone warrior in the shadows, but about creating a legacy that will live on through the actions of those he has mentored, those he has helped to rise above their own struggles. He realizes that Gotham's true resilience lies not in the strength of its heroes, but in the strength of its people. Gotham's recovery is not the result of one man's actions, but the collective effort of the city's citizens who have chosen to stand together to build a better future for themselves. Through this realization, Bruce begins to step away from Gotham's streets. His role is now that of a mentor, someone who guides the next generation of Gotham's heroes, showing them that resilience is not just about endurance, but about empowerment, about giving others the strength to carry the torch. Bruce's legacy will no longer be defined by the Bat, but by the people he has helped to stand up in the face of adversity. Gotham is no longer a city defined by fear and violence, but one that has learned to rise above its past, and it will continue to evolve as long as its people believe in their own strength. In this new Gotham, Batman may no longer be needed in the streets, but his spirit lives on in the hearts of those who continue the fight. Gotham is a city of resilience, a city that has learned to stand together and build a future worthy of the hope that has been forged through suffering and sacrifice. Bruce Wayne's superhuman resilience has created a legacy of hope, one that will outlive him and continue to guide Gotham through the darkest of times. As the story of Gotham unfolds, it becomes clear that its resilience is not defined by the actions of any single individual, no matter how powerful or enduring. The legacy of Bruce Wayne, who once fought in the shadows as Batman, now exists as a symbol of hope, empowerment, and community. Through his trials, Bruce has come to understand that true strength does not lie in the individual, but in the unity of the people who choose to stand together. Gotham is no longer a city teetering on the edge of destruction, but one that is rising from the ashes of its dark history, shaped by the courage and resilience of its citizens. Nightwing, Batgirl, and Catwoman, once sidekicks or vigilantes, have now become leaders in their own right, each embodying the principles that Bruce Wayne instilled in them. Through their resilience, Gotham's heroes have created a new city, one that is founded not on fear, but on hope, collaboration, and justice. Gotham's future, while still fraught with challenges, is no longer defined by the darkness that once consumed it. It is now a city of light, where the people, not just the heroes, are responsible for ensuring that the city's resilience continues to grow. For Bruce, his journey, which began with a deeply personal loss, has evolved into a profound understanding of what true resilience really means. No longer does he fight alone. He has passed on the legacy of hope to those who will carry it into the future, those who believe that Gotham's resilience lies not in the past, but in the power and will of the people who call it home. The city brims with possibility, as Gotham's heroes and its citizens build a future where justice and hope take precedence over fear and revenge. Gotham's future is in good hands, and its resilience will continue to shine through even in the face of new trials and challenges. Gotham has learned that, while villains and corruption may always exist, it is the will of its people, their ability to rise above their struggles, that defines the future of the city. Bruce Wayne, now more a mentor than a hero, understands that Gotham's true strength is not just in its heroes, but in the hearts of its people. His journey may have begun with pain and loss, but it ends with the hope that the city he fought for will continue to grow stronger, resilient, and united. Gotham is no longer a city under the reign of darkness. It is a city that has learned to rise, time and time again, from its own ashes, and in doing so, it has become more than just Gotham. It has become the symbol of hope, resilience, and the future.